My wife planned her new life without me before she ever asked for a divorce. I know that sounds dramatic. But I saw the apartment listing. I saw the furniture board. I saw the second phone. And later, I saw the signature. The one she thought meant she had won. 3 years after she first started smiling through lies, my lawyer placed that signed document in front of a judge. Then he looked at my wife and asked, "Did you understand what you gave away?" That was the first time I saw genuine fear on her face. But that night, back when all of this began, I still thought she loved me. Her name was Claire Whitman. Elegant, controlled, beautiful in a way that made strangers forgive her before she even spoke. We had been married for 7 years. To everyone else we looked stable. A quiet house in the suburbs. Dinner parties. Holiday photos. Matching smiles. But inside that house, love had become something I kept trying to prove, while she kept quietly spending it. The strange part is there were real moments. That is what makes betrayal dangerous. It does not arrive wearing a warning label. Sometimes it arrives after your wife falls asleep on your shoulder during a movie. Sometimes it arrives after she brings you coffee without asking. Sometimes it arrives right after she whispers, "I don't know what I'd do without you." I believed those moments. I needed to. One night, 6 months before everything collapsed, we were sitting in the kitchen during a storm. The lights flickered. Rain tapped against the windows. Claire was wearing one of my old sweaters, sleeves covering half her hands. She looked tired. Human. She rested her head against my shoulder and said, "Do you ever feel like life is about to change?" I looked at her. "In what way?" She smiled faintly. "I don't know. Like something new is waiting." At the time I thought she meant us. A new chapter. Maybe a better one. Now I realize she meant without me. That sentence stayed with me. 2 weeks later the small humiliation started. Not obvious enough to confront. Just sharp enough to remember. At dinner with friends, someone asked how my consulting firm was doing. Before I could answer, Claire laughed softly. "Daniel is very safe with money." Everyone chuckled. She touched my arm like it was affectionate. Then added, "Sometimes too safe." I smiled because that was what husbands do in public. But I noticed her eyes. She was not joking. She was testing how much disrespect I would swallow with a smile. Later in the car I said, "That comment at dinner felt unnecessary." She looked out the window. "You're too sensitive." Pause. People joke. That became her favorite weapon. A small cut. Then a soft voice. Then making me feel childish for bleeding. Looking back, that should have warned me. But I kept explaining her behavior away. Work stress. Pressure. Maybe distance happens in every marriage. Maybe I was imagining things. Then came the first real clue. A white envelope on her desk. It was not hidden well. That was the strange part. Almost like she wanted me to see it but not understand it. Inside was a printed lease agreement for a luxury apartment downtown. Only one name was listed. Claire Whitman. Move-in date, September 1st. 3 months away. I stood there for a long time with the paper in my hand. The house was quiet. The air conditioner hummed. Somewhere downstairs the dishwasher clicked softly through its cycle. I read the address again. Then the move-in date. Then her name. When Claire came home, I placed the envelope back exactly where I found it. She walked into the bedroom, kissed my cheek and said, "Long day." I looked at her reflection in the mirror. "Anything interesting happen?" She removed her earrings slowly. "No." Pause. "Why?" I smiled gently. "No reason." That was the first night I stopped asking questions out loud. The second clue came from a notification. Her phone lit up while she was in the shower. A message preview appeared. "Can't wait until the signature is done. Then we can finally start." No name. Just the initials, MR. I stared at the screen until it went dark. Signature. Start. Those 2 words sat in my chest like stones. When she came out, wrapped in a towel, she noticed me near the dresser. Her eyes moved to the phone. Then to me. For half a second her face changed. Not guilt. Calculation. "You okay?" she asked. I nodded. "Yeah." She smiled. Too quickly. That smile still bothers me. The next morning she was kind. Very kind. She made breakfast, asked about my meetings, touched my shoulder when she passed behind me. That was when I understood something. Claire did not become sweet when she felt love. She became sweet when she felt danger. 2 days later she brought up the document. We were having dinner at home. Salmon. Wine. Soft music. Everything staged like a scene. She waited until I was halfway through eating. Then she said, "I think we should update some paperwork." I looked up. What paperwork? Our financial structure. Estate documents. Business protections. Her voice was smooth. Practiced. I just think it's responsible. Responsible. People use that word when they want selfishness to sound mature. I set my fork down. What changed? She tilted her head. Nothing changed. That's the point. We should do this while everything is good. While everything is good. I almost laughed. Instead, I asked, "What exactly do you want me to sign?" She reached into the chair beside her and pulled out a folder. Black. Expensive. Prepared. That was when I realized this conversation had been rehearsed long before dinner. The document was not a divorce filing. Not directly. It was a spousal business release. A legal acknowledgement that I would waive future claims to certain marital appreciation tied to her boutique design company, Claire Whitman Interiors. She said it was just to protect investors. She said it meant nothing. She said her attorney called it standard. But I noticed what she did not mention. The company had recently received a valuation increase. A large one. And I had helped fund its first 3 years. Quietly. Through loans she called support whenever she needed them. And gifts whenever she wanted to forget them. I read the pages slowly. Claire watched me with careful patience. Too careful. Then she said, "Daniel, don't make this weird." I looked up. Weird? Her expression softened. "You know I love you. Pause. But I need to know you're not going to punish me for becoming successful." There it was. The reversal. She was asking me to sign away protection, while framing herself as the victim. I closed the folder. "I'll have my lawyer review it." For the first time her mask slipped. Just slightly. Why? Because that's what responsible people do. She stared at me, then smiled again. But this time the smile didn't reach her eyes. My lawyer was named Arthur Bell. 68 years old. Gray hair. Quiet voice. Terrifying patience. He had handled my father's estate years earlier and knew more about my finances than my wife ever bothered to ask. When I handed him Claire's document, he read it twice. The office was silent except for the ticking clock behind his desk. Then he looked at me and said, "Who drafted this?" "Her attorney." Arthur tapped the signature line. "This is not standard." My stomach tightened. "What is it?" He leaned back slowly. "It removes your claim from her business growth after the marriage date. But it also references a restructuring clause." I frowned. "What restructuring?" "That is the question." Then he turned the final page toward me. There was a blank witness line, a notary section, and a separate attachment label. Attachment C. But attachment C was missing. Arthur looked at me. "She gave you an incomplete document." Pause. "Either by mistake." He removed his glasses. "Or because she hoped you would sign before seeing the part that matters." That was the first meaningful payoff. The signature mattered. But we still didn't know why. Arthur told me not to confront her. "Not yet. People reveal more when they believe they are still in control," he said. That sentence became my rule. For the next month I watched quietly. Claire started leaving earlier, coming home later, taking calls in the garage. She changed her phone password, then changed it again. She bought new perfume. Not the one she wore for me. Something sharper. More expensive. One night, I walked downstairs for water and heard her whispering in the laundry room. "I'm close." Silence. "No, he doesn't know." Silence. Then she laughed softly. "He still thinks patience is strength." I stood in the dark hallway, barefoot, holding an empty glass. Her voice lowered. "Once he signs, there's nothing he can do." There it was. The thing behind the thing. Not divorce first. Signature first. I walked back upstairs without making a sound. That night, I lay beside her while she slept peacefully. And I understood something that hurt more than anger. She was not leaving because the marriage failed. She was making sure I paid for her exit. The investigation began the next morning. Arthur referred me to a forensic accountant named Elise Crane. She was direct. Sure. Unimpressed by tears, charm, or expensive stationery. Within 10 days, Elise found irregular vendor payments from Claire's company. Consulting fees. Creative retainers. marketing strategy payments. All routed to a firm called Meridian Row. MR. The initials from the phone. Meridian Row belonged to Marcus Reed. 42. Real estate developer. Recently divorced. And according to Elise, financially overextended. That detail mattered. Marcus did not just want Claire. He needed her. Or rather, he needed what he thought she was about to own. The second mystery was forming clearly now. What was Claire hiding? Marcus. The apartment. The missing attachment. The financial trail. But the other mystery was quieter. What was I hiding? Claire believed I was only a cautious consultant with comfortable savings. She never knew about the family trust. She never knew my father had built quiet ownership into commercial properties across 3 cities. And she definitely did not know that the building housing her flagship studio was controlled by an entity I managed. I had never used that against her. I never even mentioned it. Because when you love someone you do not keep score. But when they start planning your destruction, you learn where the numbers are. Arthur discovered the full plan 2 weeks later. Attachment C finally surfaced through a draft exchange Elise obtained legally during business discovery. It was tied to a private investor agreement between Claire and Marcus. The moment I signed the release, Claire would restructure her company. Marcus would inject capital. Claire would claim independent post-release growth. Then after separation she would argue the increased valuation was fully hers. Claim. Strategic. Cool. And the apartment downtown? Already selected. The furniture board? Already designed. The new life? Already waiting. I remember sitting in Arthur's office staring at the paperwork. The city outside looked gray. Rain crawling down the glass. Arthur said, "She is not reacting emotionally. She is executing a plan." I asked, "What happens if I don't sign?" "She delays divorce." "And if I do sign?" He looked at me for a long moment. "Then we make the signature mean something different." That was the moment the revenge stopped being emotional. It became legal. Precise. Patient. Arthur drafted a revised version. Almost identical on the surface. Clean language. Professional formatting. Nothing dramatic. But inside it were enforcement clauses tied to fraud, concealed relationships, undisclosed third-party financial interests, and misrepresentation. If Claire signed the companion certification stating there were no hidden agreements connected to the restructuring, and we later proved otherwise, she would trigger full disclosure penalties, business exposure, asset forfeiture, attorney fee recovery, and most importantly, the release she wanted from me would become unusable. Arthur slid the revised packet across the desk. "This only works if she is arrogant enough not to read carefully." I thought of Claire's smile. "She will read what she wants to see." He nodded. "Most people do." At home I became the man she expected. Quiet. Tired. Slightly defeated. Not dramatic. Just worn down enough to make her comfortable. Claire noticed. Of course she did. Manipulators always notice when their pressure starts working. Or when they think it does. One evening she sat beside me on the couch and touched my hand. "I hate that paperwork made things tense," she said. Her voice was soft. Almost believable. I looked at her. "Do you?" She blinked. "Of course." Then she squeezed my hand. "I just need us to move forward." Forward. Another word that meant something different to each of us. 2 days later, I told her Arthur had suggested minor formatting edits and a mutual disclosure certification. Her face tightened. "What certification?" "Just confirming no hidden third-party agreements connected to the business restructuring." For 1 second the room went completely still. The television played softly in the background. Some cooking show. A woman laughing. A knife hitting a cutting board. Claire stared at me. Then smiled. "That sounds unnecessary. It protects both of us." She looked away. "I'll have my attorney review it." "Of course." She stood quickly. Too quickly. That night her car left at 10:43 p.m. She said she was going to see Camille. But Elise's investigator confirmed she went to Marcus Reed's apartment. Photos came the next morning. Claire entering the building. Marcus meeting her at the door. Her hand on his chest. His lips on her forehead. The image was not graphic. That somehow made it worse. It looked familiar. Intimate. Established. Like I was not discovering an affair, but arriving late to a relationship that had existed behind mine for months. I sat alone in my office looking at that photograph. No music. No movement. Just the quiet hum of the computer. For the first time I let the pain land. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just enough to admit the truth. My marriage was already over. I was only waiting for her to sign the evidence. Claire signed 8 days later. Not at home. At her attorney's office. With confidence. With polish. With that same controlled smile. She came home that evening holding takeout like we were normal. I signed everything, she said casually. I looked up from the kitchen island. Everything? She placed the food down. Yes. Pause. Can we stop acting like I'm the enemy now? I studied her face. Her perfect makeup. Her rehearsed sadness. Her beautiful lie. Then I said, I never said you were. She relaxed. That was the saddest part. She thought the danger had passed. Really? It had just begun. 2 weeks after the signature, Claire asked for space. Not divorce. Space. She said she felt emotionally unseen. She said she needed clarity. She said she wanted to stay downtown for a while to think. I knew the apartment was already furnished. I knew Marcus had helped choose the sofa. I knew the lease began that week. But I let her speak. When she finished, I asked, Is there someone else? Her eyes watered immediately. Impressive. No. Not hesitation. Not shame. Just performance. How could you even ask me that? I nodded slowly. You're right. She wiped one tear. I don't want us to become ugly, Daniel. That almost made me laugh. Because ugly had already moved into our house. It just wore perfume and called itself clarity. She moved out that Friday. 1 suitcase. Then 3. Then movers. She took the art from the hallway. The espresso machine. A set of crystal glasses my mother gave us. Small cruelties disguised as logistics. Before leaving, she stood by the front door and looked around. I hope someday you understand, she said. I looked at her calmly. I already do. She frowned slightly. But she did not ask what I meant. Arrogance protects people from questions that might save them. The divorce papers arrived 19 days later. Claire claimed emotional neglect, financial control, lack of support. She requested a favorable division based on her independent business growth after the signed release. Marcus was not mentioned. Meridian Row was not mentioned. The apartment was not mentioned. Attachment C was not mentioned. Arthur read the filing in silence. Then he smiled. Not happily. Professionally. She stepped on every rake in the yard. The exposure began in discovery. At first, Claire's legal team was confident. They produced curated records. Clean summaries. Selected emails. Statements designed to show her as a hardworking woman escaping a cold, unsupportive husband. But Arthur asked boring questions. That was his gift. Boring questions make liars impatient. What is Meridian Row? Marketing support. Who owns it? I'm not sure. When did payments begin? I'd have to check. Were there any personal relationships connected to Meridian Row? No. Arthur paused. Looked at her signed certification. Then asked, Are you certain? Claire's attorney objected. Arthur said nothing. Just placed the certification on the table. Claire looked at it. For the first time, uncertainty crossed her face. Tiny. But visible. The deposition lasted 5 hours. By hour 3, Marcus became unavoidable. By hour 4, the apartment appeared. By hour 5, the investor agreement surfaced. Claire stopped smiling. That evening, she called me directly. I did not answer. She texted, We need to talk like adults. Then, Arthur is making this uglier than it needs to be. Then, you're not innocent either. That last one made me pause. Not because it was true. Because it showed me where her mind went under pressure. When manipulators lose control of facts, they attack character. I sent nothing back. Silence was the only reply she deserved. The courtroom hearing happened 6 weeks later. Temporary motions. Business valuation issues. Disclosure violations. Nothing final yet. But enough to expose the shape of the truth. Claire arrived in a cream suit. Soft makeup. Wedding ring still on. A calculated choice. Marcus did not attend. Of course. Men who help burn houses rarely stay to smell the smoke. Arthur sat beside me, organizing folders with almost irritating calm. Claire looked at me once. Her expression said, Please don't do this. But her filing had already done it. Her lies had already done it. Her signature had already done it. The judge entered. Everyone stood. Then the room changed. Arthur began slowly, respectfully. He explained the business release, the certification, the missing attachment, the third-party agreement. Then he placed the signed document into evidence. The signature. The same signature Claire thought freed her. Now it locked her inside her own lie. Arthur looked at the judge. My client was asked to waive claims based on representations that no hidden third-party agreements existed. Pause. That representation was false. Claire's attorney stood. Argument. Damage control. Technical language. Arthur waited. Then introduced the Meridian Row payments. $18,000. $24,000. $31,500. All labeled as consulting. All tied to Marcus Reed. Then came the apartment lease. Then photographs. Then the investor draft. Then messages. Not graphic. Not excessive. Just enough. Can't wait until the signature is done. Then we can finally start. The courtroom went quiet. Very quiet. Claire stared at the screen. I watched her face as the words appeared. She looked smaller. Not innocent. Not broken. Just exposed. Arthur turned toward her table and asked, "Did Mrs. Whitman understand what she was signing?" Her attorney objected again. The judge allowed limited questioning. Arthur continued, "Did she certify there were no undisclosed agreements connected to this business restructuring?" "Yes." "Was that true?" Silence. Claire looked down. Her attorney whispered something. The judge waited. Finally, Claire said, "I didn't think it was relevant." That sentence destroyed her. Not legally only. Emotionally. Because everyone in the room understood what she meant. She did not think betrayal was relevant if it helped her win. Arthur nodded once. Then delivered the line I will never forget. "Your Honor, Mrs. Whitman did not sign under confusion. She signed under confidence." Pause. And confidence is not a defense against fraud. That was the moment the power shifted completely. The judge did not finalize everything that day. Real life is not that theatrical. But he ordered expanded discovery. Froze disputed business restructuring claims. Allowed forensic review of Meridian Row transactions. And warned Claire's counsel that misrepresentation could affect the entire financial division. Claire left the courtroom pale. No cameras. No shouting. No dramatic collapse. Just footsteps. Soft. Unsteady. For the first time in years she walked behind me. The consequences unfolded slowly. That made them worse. Marcus withdrew from the investment. Meridian Row came under scrutiny. Claire's company lost 2 major clients when word spread quietly through the design community. Not publicly. Not scandalously. Just whispers. High-end business runs on trust. And once people believe you manipulate contracts, they stop inviting you into expensive rooms. The apartment downtown became too expensive without Marcus. Her attorney fees grew. Her valuation claim weakened. Her image cracked. The final settlement came 9 months later. She kept the company. But wounded. Debt-heavy. Restricted. She waived claims against several marital assets after the fraud issues became too dangerous to fight. I recovered legal fees. Protected the trust. Protected the property. And ended the marriage without losing the life my father had built. But victory did not feel loud. It felt quiet. Like finally turning off a sound that had been hurting your ears for years. The last time I saw Claire was outside Arthur's office after signing the final papers. It was raining. Of course it was. She stood under the awning in a dark coat, holding a folder against her chest. No designer confidence. No cold smile. Just exhaustion. For a moment she looked like the woman from the kitchen years earlier. The one in my sweater. The one who asked if life was about to change. She looked at me and said, "Did you ever plan to forgive me?" I thought about lying. Something polite. Something clean. But after everything the truth felt kinder. No. Her eyes lowered. Then she asked, "When did you know?" I looked toward the street. Rainwater moved along the curb in thin silver lines. I remembered the lease. The phone. The missing attachment. The signature. But those were not the real answer. So I said, "I knew when you started treating my love like something you could manage." She closed her eyes. Just for a second. Then whispered, I was afraid I'd never become anything. That was the first honest thing she had said in years. And somehow it made me sad. Because fear had been there all along. Under the ambition. Under the arrogance. Under the manipulation. She was terrified of being ordinary. So she tried to use people as staircases. I said, "You could have built a life with me." She opened her eyes. "I know." That was all. No apology big enough. No explanation useful enough. No tears capable of changing the signature already sitting in a file. I walked away before the rain stopped. And this time I did not look back. 4 months afterward, people asked if I felt satisfied. I never knew how to answer. Revenge is not happiness. Not really. It is the return of balance. It is watching someone finally meet the consequences they thought only belonged to other people. Claire planned her new life without me. She chose the apartment, the man, the documents, the lie. And then she signed the one paper that proved all of it. She thought one signature would erase me from her future. But in the end, that same signature erased her from mine.